My name's David Ridgway, and this is Kirklees Local Television's Weekly Wind-Up, where we bring you a digest of the weekly news. We aim to be provocative, interesting, amusing, and informative. It's good to be back, presenting the Weekly Wind-Up today, and I have three guests. Dr. Steve Ollertron is the clinical lead for the Greater Huddersfield Commissioning Group. Hell of a title, that, Steve.
It's great. Yeah.
Welcome to you. Jean Green is a lifelong Giant supporter, and my understanding is you're known as the Granny of Rugby League.
Sort of, yeah. That's one of my names.
And I understand that, somewhat bizarrely, you used to go to school here.
Yes, I did.
Well, there we are. And Pastor Carlton Napier, a well-known local figure in the local community. Carlton, good to see you again.
Good to see you, David.
Okay. But we want feedback from you. The wind-up can be contacted by email on info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, and you can search on Twitter @Weekly Wind-Up. The topics we'll be covering today are the rumoured closure of an accident and emergency unit at either Huddersfield or Halifax. Secondly, is the Crown Prosecution Service bringing too many high-profile cases to court with insufficient evidence? And thirdly, why have the Giants gone off the boil this season? I'm going to start off with you today, Steve, if I might.
Yep.
Do you think that the local NHS Trust should retain both A&Es in Huddersfield and Halifax? Or perhaps I should say, are you allowed to tell us?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. The first thing, as hopefully you are aware, no decisions have been made yet, and any decisions that would be made would be a public consultation, which at the moment looks like it will be over the summer. I think what's clear at the moment is we have two A&E departments that are 5 miles apart, and with the increasing amount of pressure on those departments from greater population, greater elderly population with greater needs, they are struggling at times, and it's quite clear that that is not going to get any better in the future. And so the trust, our local trust, which as you know covers both A&E departments, feel that the best way to have a long-term sustainable future is to actually merge the main A&E into one department. Because at the moment you have consultants trying to cover both, lots of doctors trying to cover both departments, and it's well known that there is not 24-hour, 7 days a week consultant cover at both A&E departments. Now I think that our population, both in Kirklees and in Calderdale, they deserve to be able to see if they're really seriously ill, that the highest qualified doctors they possibly can, and they've got more chance of doing that if they go to a centralised A&E department. Can I just say one more thing?
You can.
In the proposals that have not actually been decided yet, they're not aiming to close either A&E department, but certainly to lessen the offer at one of them and to make the other one a sort of major department.
Oh, the public will certainly see that as a thin end of a wedge, but
yeah.
we'll discuss it a bit more later. You made three very interesting points to me. First of all, you say that they are struggling, presumably because they're so busy.
Yep.
Right. Secondly, you say that they're 5 miles apart, but you haven't mentioned the very famous and often closed Elland bypass, and you've also said that there's going to be a public consultation. What I want to say to you here is it more important for the consultants to be able to get from one department to the other, or for the public to attend either one department or the other?
I think it's more important for the public to attend the right place, the right department, according to how seriously ill they are, because they've got a better chance of getting the treatment they need if they're at a place where the specialisms are available.
You see, and I listen very carefully to what you said, and although I might be quite cynical about the comments about the public consultation, and we could have a discussion about that for all day, I guess, but I feel that if both departments are really busy, and one is proposed to be lessened in favour of the other, then one set of the population on one side of the M62 is going to get a lesser service compared with the other one. And surely, on the basis of all the things that you've said, all of which are important, it would be perhaps more reasonable to suggest that you bolster up both.
It would be ideal if we could do that. The thing is, the doctors don't exist for starters, and there are not enough A&E consultants. Well, yes, but I'm only a GP.
Yes, okay.
And also, it's not actually a very good use of expensive consultants' time to be there 24/7. Because let's face it, the vast majority of people who go to A&E don't need to see a consultant. They
Oh, well, that's a different subject, and that I do understand, and I do appreciate. I mean, I can tell you very quickly that I had the end of my finger bitten off by a dog, and I attended Huddersfield A&E. They were absolutely brilliant. I went in with a dirty handkerchief wrapped around the finger, took it off and said, dog's bitten off my finger. And the lady in reception just leant out of the window, looked at the public in the waiting room and said, "You'll all have to wait now, this one's an emergency," and sent me straight down to the X-ray department. And I thought, well, that's how it ought to be. Not because it was me, but because it was perhaps more important than all the others. Now, I guess in some way that's what you're actually saying to us, that the doctors are waiting around because a lot of the stuff that they are expected to be looking at is unimportant because they're not really supposed to be at A&E.
You make a very, very good point there, and certainly part of the, shall we call it, redesign of accident and emergency, or what we call urgent care in people who need to be seen the same day, as it were, is to actually start getting better at dealing with people in GP surgeries. There are plans to increase urgent care at Todmorden Health Centre and at Home Valley Hospital, so that people with bitten off fingers would be able to go there.
I can't remember that.
Yeah, because certainly there are figures quoted between 50 and 60% of people who attend an A&E department could easily be dealt with if a different kind of, maybe a walk-in centre or a GP surgery that's got that has availability would be able to deal with, and they don't have to go to the A&E department. And certainly, if any of these proposals do come through, then we're not expecting to have an A&E department that sees twice as many people, because that's not what we need to be doing. We need to be making sure that, because at the moment about 70,000 are seen at HRI, 70,000 are seen at Colnerdale. We don't want a department that sees 140,000 people. We want a lot of those to be dealt with in a different way in the community.
Right, now then, Jean, you've heard what happens when two people in professional public life start to discuss important matters like this. You, as a member of the public, what do you think of what was said?
Well, it's interesting to listen to both points of view. Mainly, I can't see why they should close either one or the other of the accidents and emergencies. I mean, the university town like Huddersfield, there's more people, a lot more people, more elderly people. But I can also see that there's a lot of people going to the accidents and emergency that don't need to go there. They are wasting people's time.
Do you think that's a matter of public education?
I think so. Yeah, they go there if it's toothache or whatever.
Yeah.
So they,
Well, it's a matter of public education, Carlton. That's a matter for you, isn't it? Really? Because you're the one as a community leader, so you're going to have to be telling your community that don't clog up A&E and leave the emergencies.
Well, David, I certainly believe that to an extent, and as much as I believe in spiritual health, accident and emergency is something that we don't plan for. You cannot legislate for it, and that's a problem that we are having. I think we've got a very good health service here, but when it comes to forecast, almost all newspaper, every media center is talking about closure. The public is becoming very wary. Yeah. But I must agree with Councillor Adam, Labour Councillor from Surrey Bridge, and he says these proposals are more about the government cuts than better outcome for patients, and we've got to get the balance right. If we close it, are we thinking of the patients, or are we thinking of the budget that we must save 50 million? And it's about time. And Dr. Barbara Cross was speaking to the councillors, and she told them there are 5 options. And the preferred option is that we've got to keep HRI and make Calderdale a very upmarket centre for health. But what's wrong with that? It's 5 miles apart, as we said. Whatever the decision is, the government must cut. There is absolutely nowhere. Check from London to the next end of the country. There are cuts right across the board, and here in our neck of the wood, we're going to feel it as well.
The thing that concerns me is that when we had the report a week to 10 days ago of a lorry that broke down on the Ellen bypass, and the bypass was actually closed for 2 hours, it just knocks all these plans on the head.
I mean, that's obviously a concern, and Yorkshire Ambulance Service are at the table in these discussions and will be part of the decision process. I mean, we know the Ellen bypass has its problems, but I think Yorkshire Ambulance Service have given us assurance that they don't see the distances involved here as a problem. So if everything was closed between Calderdale and Kirklees, will it have to go to Bradford? Or if on the other hand you're in Huddersfield and need to be a Calderdale, then you'd have to go to either Barnsley or somewhere like that. I mean, there are ways around these.
Well, that's okay for you, because you're a GP in the Skelderthorpe, so Barnsley is actually a very good option.
It is. And this is, we have to understand nowadays that when you're seriously ill, actually getting to the hospital can actually take a bit of time, because the ambulance staff, the paramedics now, are very good at stabilising patients and making sure that they're assessing what's wrong with them, and then actually in some cases deciding which hospital they need to go to. I'm sure you're aware now, if you have a heart attack now here, the paramedics turn up, they do your ECG. Do you know where you're going? Leeds. You're going to Leeds, definitely. That would happen today.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, when I fell down, what it turned out to be was embolisms, lungs. I was taken to the HRI.
Right. But that's because you hadn't had a heart attack.
Well, they didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, did they do an ECG?
They did an ECG, they did...
But obviously the ECG didn't show that you'd had a heart attack.
Yeah, ECG didn't show anything at all.
Well, that's why you went to HRI.
Because my pulmonary embolisms were actually not known at the time, because they were in that. Actually, I said to the consultant afterwards, when I was having my assessment 6 or so weeks later, I said, how big were these embolisms? Oh, he says they were big. I said, they can't possibly be that big. Had they been dead? He said, no, I'm only doing that to show you what big means. He said, actually, about that stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know what you doctors are like. Right. Well, thank you very much to our panellists for a fascinating conversation. I do feel that this is a matter which, when it goes to public consultation, I do hope that the comments of the public are taken into consideration. Because it's certainly my view, and I think I echo the thoughts of the public at large, that public consultation is a bit of a misnomer, in that it's really a public information exercise rather than a consultation exercise, and by the time it goes to public consultation, the decision will already have been made. We no doubt will have a big discussion about that at another time, but I hope that the public's comments will be taken into consideration.
If I could just add that before, as I said, the consultation will not happen before the election, so we're talking June or July.
That's right.
And already we are holding workshops and roadshows around Kirklees and around Calderdale. The dates are available, and you can go and have a conversation with people like me. The best place to find out the information from these is our website, which is www.ghccg.net. If you wish.
Indeed. Well, this is one of the reasons why you're here today, of
Yes.
course, Steve, that's right. So we'll take a break there. You can add to this debate by contacting us on email at info@kirkleeslocaltv.com or searching on Twitter @weeklywinder. Thank you very much. welcome back. Recently, we have seen the acquittals of Ken Roach and Michael Lavelle on sex charges. These are sex charges which have been brought in the wake of the Jimmy Savile revelations. We've also seen the acquittal of Nigel Evans, a Tory MP from the Ribble Valley, on similar sex charges. Earlier in the year, David Travis was acquitted on 12 charges of old sex charges, and I gather he is now facing a further one. Pastor Napier, do you feel that the Crown Prosecution Service is being a bit gung-ho in its attitude to these high-profile cases?
I do think so, David. And I know we can't do anything to those who are dead, like Jimmy Savile. But I think for those of cases that are coming to the public domain, I don't think that the Crown Prosecution Service is consulting very much with the DPP. And why can't they do some pre-trial briefing and get the facts ready before they come to the public domain? Because it seems as if every time we come with a high profile, forgetting those who are doing it undercover but you're not high profile, but these guys are in the public domain. And we're bringing them and their garbage and their dirty linen to the public. And then all of a sudden there's a breakdown. And the public is really getting tired, and I don't think anybody is really thinking about the victims. I don't think anybody is thinking about the families who are involved, the pressure that they're under and going through because of what has been done to them, whether in childhood or not. So I really believe, and I have to agree, that the Attorney General now, it seems as it has stepped in and has demanded some answers for failed sex offences. And I think the nation needs to ride behind him to ask some serious questions. Why are we having so many failed cases coming to the public domain? Something must be done. If there are not enough evidence, we should not be bringing them to the public domain.
Do you think there's a pattern emerging whereby the CPS is becoming increasingly desperate to seek a conviction in the wake of the Jimmy Savile revelations?
I do think so, and that's the problem we're having now. It seems as if the next person that come to light, we are going to really go all out to put him down because we've got so many failed cases.
It could be a her.
That's right. Well, it seems as if we've got more of the male gender coming. But I must admit that before all of this, the Crown Prosecution Service did have a very good track record, 85 to 86% of their cases coming. But for sex offences, and this is what we're talking about, always seem to be lower. So something is not right. The mathematics is not really adding up for me.
What do you think about this, Jean?
Well, I agree with what Pastor Napier said, and I also think, I don't think that people should be named until it's been proved in court.
Well, let me ask you this as a question. Nigel Evans was acquitted, and yet it's reported that he's had to spend £130,000 of his own personal savings in order to fund his defence. He cannot claim that money back because, as I found out, 2 years ago the law was changed in that defence fees are no longer attributable to the Crown if the case is lost. Do you think that's right?
No, it isn't. Not if you've been found not guilty.
Well, I have to say that when I found this out, I was actually quite disturbed because I gather this was a proposal put to Parliament in the dying days of the last Labour government and was ratified by the coalition. Does that not surprise you?
It does, yeah. I'm not surprised what they do.
Well, I can't make a comment about that.
Well, I can.
£130,000 is an enormous amount of money for an individual person to find just to defend himself and to get an acquittal.
Mm-hmm.
The CPS, of course, do believe that they bring a case when they feel they can get a conviction. Now, if they feel they've got a case where they can get a conviction and they are failing because of the juries, is this putting the jury system into question? What do you think, Steve?
I think it's interesting, Pastor Napier's statistics there about the percentage of convictions that are actually held. I think there's definitely an element of them trying to make up for the numbers, well, for the ones that got away, as it were. And I think Julie Saville is a very interesting case.
Yes.
And I do think that they're trying to buy back some public confidence by bringing these cases. But my understanding is these cases are supposed to be looked at by, high-profile police who should know. And they know that if you have conflicting evidence, then it's not going to get through the jury system. And I don't think the jury system is wrong, because the jury is there. They can only convict if they are all sure that the person is guilty.
That's right.
And yet they're being presented with evidence that's conflicting. There's only one answer going to come out of that. And I think they need to be looking at the cases, not at the juries.
Well, to make this a little bit more local, there was a case in Leeds Crown Court where a driver was convicted of death by driving, and he received a sentence from memory of community service, plus court costs, of course, plus I think he was banned from driving for 2 years. And there was then a bit of an outcry, because although the family of the deceased did not call for this driver to be sent to prison, there was quite a wide call from the public to send this driver to prison. But the family did say that the sentence for the offence was far too lenient. Now, it had obviously passed through the magistrates' court because it went off to Crown Court. It was held and heard in front of a judge and sentenced in front of a judge. Do you feel that the sentence for death by driving, or death by dangerous driving, to be looked at on a relatively low number of hours community service, is the correct balance?
This is an interesting one. I'd be interested to know whether there was any alcohol involved, dangerous driving due to intoxication, because I think anybody that puts themselves in that position really, needs to have the full weight of the law on top of them, because they knowingly got themselves in that situation. I mean, dangerous driving is a very difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I'd be very surprised if that person went out in their car that day with the intention of, I might just do this and somebody might die.
I think I might drive dangerous.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. And I think you would also have to take in the amount of remorse, to be honest. If
apparently none was shown at all.
Okay.
But that's what he said in the paper. But then
in that case, how are we going to have a system? Because we do have a very good judicial system in this country. I believe that. I think it's top range worldwide. But are we going to see a system where judges are basing their decision on public outcry, remorse, looking at your face and see whether or not you are acting? Because we've got a lot of people acting. There's a case that is dramatized on TV, a lot of acting is going on. How much of that is touching the heart? These judges are supposed to be sitting at a place where we have the confidence as the public to know that whatever decision that they make is going to be fair. So if the law book says that this is for 3 years, whatever is happening, we are allowing them to use their discretion right across the board. So I think we really need to review almost everything that is happening right now. Because not so long ago, KLTV, the same program, reviewed the whole situation on whether or not we're getting soft as a country on whole in our sentencing of these criminals. And maybe that's what we really need to look at. Get these judges and these new judges that are being trained to really review and not only look at public outcry, because that is always going to be there. And families are so different because they feel it more than anybody else. And their feeling is, well, my child is dead or I'm the rape victim, so we're going to get you. Flesh for flesh.
Well, that's a bit old-fashioned.
That's how people are.
Indeed it is.
You're touched.
Indeed it is. Now then, Jean, we've heard some interesting comments here, but I would like to just widen this out to a rather different level and say, does the media, particularly the press, demonstrate a balance in reporting these cases?
No way. No way.
Right.
No.
I think Kirklees TV does.
Oh, absolutely right.
Yes.
This is why I was asked the question. So when we hear in the press that the family didn't want this driver to go to prison, that sounds to me like a very balanced and a very considered comment to make. But when the press then goes on and say this sentence was too lenient, but doesn't then outline the balance of the cases, prosecution and defence, what do you feel about that? Is that good or bad reporting?
That's bad reporting, isn't it? It's all, I say, well, not glorifying it, but it's just
sensationalising.
Thank you very much, it's just sensationalising it, isn't it, really?
Trying to solve.
Yeah, some papers, and, yeah.
Now, I want to go on to my next topic, which is why have giants gone off the boil? And on the basis of this is a great link. Do you think the press sensationalises the unfairness of referees in rugby matches?
Wow, naughty David. You want to know that? No, that's left to me, that.
Yes, it is. It's a question just for you, Jean.
Yeah. No, the press has nothing to do with it.
Okay. Very good.
No, you were asking me now about the Giants. I'm going to
ask you. Do you know, you'll make a good politician because you've bounced that one back very well. Right, why have the Giants gone off the boil?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say to everybody that supports the Giants, do not panic. We aren't even halfway through the season yet. And I think after last year, everybody expected them to start the season just as they finished off and come back, and for some reason, including myself, for some reason they haven't done. But we must remember that we had at least 6 of our players out playing in the World Cup. They didn't have a lot of time, a lot of resting at all, and they're back, and those players are certainly not playing as well as what they did last year. They haven't got up to speed yet.
Are they unfit?
No, I think they're just tired, to be honest. I don't think they're really,
But they're doing what they want to do, which is playing sport.
Yeah, but it's a hard game,
Is
It's
it?
not like football. It's not like football, it's a hard game. One of the hardest.
Is it as hard as rugby union?
It's hard to rugby.
That's just for the answers, is it?
You don't put words in my mouth.
Oh, right.
No, it must be harder because you can play rugby union when you're older, when you're overweight and everything, can't you?
Thank you very much.
You can't play rugby league, can you, at that?
Okay.
But, and our little general on the pitch, he isn't playing at his full potential yet. I'm not blaming him, by the way, but when he's not on form, somehow the rest of the team aren't on form. I know it shouldn't be a one-man, but that's what happens. But as I got told by another manager, another coach, he said, do not worry, it will all come together.
Okay.
And I trust this man.
They said that at Manchester United, though, didn't they?
Yeah, but that's a soft.
Don't
Yeah.
go
Don't go
there.
down that road.
Okay.
Please.
Don't go down that road.
It's still on rugby. Bye.
Still on rugby.
All that money to get paid, don't go down that road.
Are there any plans to strengthen the squad?
Not that I know of.
So,
And I don't get any inside information.
that's not what I've heard.
No, I don't.
Now, I understand that your nickname is the Granny of Rugby League. Why is that?
Well, it was Robbie Hunter Paul that wrote in his autobiography, Grandma to the Stars. Because people might not know, but my grandson plays for the Huddersfield Giants and for England, which I'm very proud of. Leroy Cudjoe. And that's what he put, he got picked for England. So Robbie Hunter Paul put Grandma to the Stars. And a lot of them call me Grandma.
We've got 2 rugby players from Huddersfield who play for England. The other one playing for this rather softer rugby game.
Oh, yes, what's his name?
Rumoured.
Yeah, that's a friend of Leroy's. Yeah.
I'm sure that's right, yeah. I have to say that I've met a number of the rugby league guys, and I find them really, really entertaining people. But I'm quite surprised that you say that coming back from the World Cup they're tired. What would you do to accommodate international games like the World Cup, so that the stars don't actually, the squad doesn't actually get affected? I mean, should they not have more time off in order to recover?
Well, I think so, really, because they played a full season of rugby, and if they weren't injured, they played every game.
Yeah.
And then they went straight on to the World Cup,
Yeah.
which is a lot harder, believe you or me, against these foreign ones, you know, big boys. And then they came back, and I think Leroy had just about a fortnight, I'm not sure. Then they're back into training again, and it's bound to take it out on your body, you know.
Why do you think that is? I mean, these are young, fit people.
Well, you should be able to tell us, Doc, you know.
Well, that's it. I can't think of a medical reason why a 20-year-old can't play rugby every week. I mean...
Do you think they get mentally tired?
Well, they shouldn't do. They're getting paid enough.
Oh, dear,
Where do we
dear.
go?
Oh, how provocative.
Do you like soccer?
Yes.
Well, there
No,
you
they
go.
get paid enough. That's
They
it.
get paid too much for stadium.
They do.
So you're telling us, Jean, that it's going to come right,
Yes, I was told so by a book coach.
and he should
Tony
know.
Smith.
Right, he should know.
Yes, he said have faith in them, and I think it will come round.
Because if I remember rightly, towards the back end of last season, the Giants had done really well, and then they lost game after game after game, and their sort of position became more and more difficult at the top, and then they won 2 or 3 games, and they were able to hold on to actually claim the title. Is that
Yeah.
so really they have started off this season with the way they finished last?
Well, yes, there is that about it.
Okay.
But
Well, we will watch the future of the Giants over the next few weeks to see whether Jean has got the inside knowledge as to what's going on down there, and we will be back to talk to her grandson if things do go offline. Thank you very much, panel, for being with us today. Steve, I hope you found this interesting. I hope you've really appreciated the opportunity to put forward the A&E situation.
I have very much so. Yes, thank you.
Carlton, thank you for stepping in, for being our local solicitor of Bleak magistrate today and talking with regard to the CPS. I just have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that I wasn't able to get hold of anybody from the magistrates court because they're all gagged on these matters. And thirdly, Jean, thank you for giving us the confidence that the Giants will come around and be good for the rest of the season. We want your views. You can contact us on email at info@kirkleeslocaltv.com and also search for us on Twitter @weeklywinder. Thank you very much for watching.